And welcome back to the Campaign Roundtable. I'm Garrett Weinzierl.
I'm Mike Doherty.
And I'm Kyle Ferguson.
And this is the cast where we dive into the depths that is the story of video games. And this week, we have a challenge laid ahead of us, gentlemen, because we are going to attempt to discuss the story, or lack thereof, in Dear Esther, the indie title of said name. We took, is it a week we took off, or 2 weeks, or I don't know. Kyle got sick, then I got sick, and I forget exactly how many episodes we've missed.
It feels like we took a summer off.
We've only missed one, because
Okay.
2 weeks ago we did Prince of Persia, and then we had a week before that where I was sick, so now everyone's healthy, and we're ready to get good and depressed.
Exactly, which is good, because Mike, you're next. You're going to get sick. I'm calling it now.
All right, let's do this.
Enjoy.
I feel like it probably was longer than it was because the game was so short.
That's a good
I'm used
point.
to like not having that much time between finishing the game and when we actually talk about the game.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best to not talk about The Last of Us, which is the long game I filled this time with.
You and me both.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the odd man out.
Oh, really? Yeah, because you have a PlayStation. I'm surprised you haven't picked it up.
I know. It's just I'm hesitant with anything zombie related anymore. I'm just kind of over zombies for the moment. I know it's supposed to be good, but I'm just kind of like, zombies.
It is as good as the hype.
Okay.
Like, it's a damn good game.
So I'm very hot and cold with stuff like The Walking Dead. It's like, yes, it's cool, but then I get sick of it real quick because I'm just so done with zombies.
Yeah, well, this is like a nice, tight 16-hour experience, providing how much exploring you do. Like, because there's tons of, like, the whole thing is about scavenging, so you can spend a lot of time searching for stuff. But
Well, it's so funny to see the zombie craze still going when most of these games, I mean, Last of Us was announced in 2010 originally. And in fact, there's a rather hilarious little story about how freaked out they were that Dead Island was coming out. Because they're like, oh, crap, look at these trailers. You remember the original trailer. And how it looked like it was going to be like this story-based thing. And there's like kids and this emotional journey. And now it's like an MMO shooter.
yeah, the
Punching
freaking
zombies.
the trailer for Dead Island has literally nothing to do with the game, except
Yeah.
it's on an island, I think.
So it'll be interesting to see like what kind of games come out in 3 years due to zombies kind of falling out of popularity now. We still got some stragglers, I feel. Over the next 2 years, we'll be seeing some more zombies.
This is the thing that never really bothered me because I was always kind of a zombie fan. So now I'm just like, oh, sweet. Well, now there's a lot of it, and some of it's good. So
Yeah.
cool.
It's like Twinkies to me. It's like I've always loved Twinkies, but man, if you just eat them a lot, you don't want to see Twinkies again for a while. There's Twinkies in pretty much every Call of Duty that I can think of lately, and like every game has a Twinkie mod. Still using the Twinkies as zombies reference, but
That's a one big Twinkie.
it's fun.
But
Yes. And yeah, I'm kind of sick of Twinkies.
all right,
Move
fair
on to
enough.
Ho-Ho.
I will say this: I didn't see World War Z, and had there not been as much zombie stuff, I probably would have seen that. That would have been a movie in the past I would not have skipped. But I just kind of feel like, meh.
They're superhuman zombies. I don't get it. They're like track stars with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like they've just kind of they're okay, we started off slow, and then they kind of got smart, and then they started running, and then they just, whatever. And now all of a sudden they're like these superhuman things that can pile on top of each other ad infinitum like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, well, they're insect-like. Or
Sure, and I
hive-like.
mean, if you're dead, you don't have a sense of personal comfort anymore. I mean, I've always liked that idea that they do have super strength, and like when they like bang on a wall, they're ripping their own fingernails off because they don't care anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm more the realistic zombie guy. Like, they're dried out, rotting corpses. They cannot run at 30 miles an hour for more than like 10 seconds before they basically just fall apart.
Sure,
Yeah.
and on day 2, they become bloated and no longer a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, The Walking Dead does a good job with that. Everything they are definitely falling apart, and then that's why for rage virus type stories, I prefer 28 Days Later because they're all fresh.
Exactly.
Well, and they're not
gonna die.
undead.
Yeah, well, they are, but they're zombies. They're just a modern take on it. And anyways, just the bottom line is go play it, Mike.
Okay.
You won't be disappointed. I really like.
That was a nice rabbit hole we just fell
Yeah,
down. That was
it
like
re-
longer than Dear Esther, I think.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So,
Hey, if we need a segue from horror, the Chinese Room, the producer of this game, is the one working on Amnesia 2, A Machine for Pigs.
I have not heard of that. What is that?
you haven't heard of Amnesia: The Dark Descent?
No.
Okay. Basically, Twitch TV was made for two things: streaming esports and watching people scream and cry as they try to play through Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Okay. Was that kind of like that Eternal Darkness on the GameCube or something, or
Yeah,
what?
except actually scary.
Ah.
Yeah. I'm surprised you missed that. It had this. There was this stint for like about a year where every person that was even a remote personality on the web were recording themselves doing playthroughs of this game because it is so freaking scary.
It's weird. Was I in China
I don't
during
know.
this or something?
You must
No.
have stuck your head in a bag for all of the past 2 Octobers.
Yeah, it's
Oh, okay.
yeah. If you can handle it, I recommend it. I don't think it'll ever be a game we do on the show because I cannot handle that game. I hate it. I hate that game.
You couldn't like play through. What was that bum fights game that you thought was so scary?
Oh, Condemned.
Yeah, tase him
yeah.
in the nuts and hit him in the head. Like that was the entire game.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get that far into it, to be honest. I was partially scared and partially didn't give a crap. But Dead Space freaks me out too. Dead Space bothers me, and Last of Us scared the living crap out of me. But I was so enthralled with the story that I pushed through.
Okay.
So, but yeah, okay. This will be the last accolade I give Last of Us. Just from a story aspect, it's in like my top 5 just stories of all time. I enjoyed it so much. It's like movies, comics, TV, video games. Just it's right up there with like Star Wars and I don't know what else. Like I just love it.
Story's pretty but yeah, I certainly agree. The acting is what made it.
Yeah, it's really good. And if they make a sequel with the same characters, I'm gonna kill somebody because I loved how it ended. Anyways, back into your Esther. Done. That's it. I'm done talking about Last of Us until we do an episode on Last of Us, which is inevitable. It has to be done. Yeah. So what are they called? The Chinese Room or something?
The Chinese Room, independent British video game developer.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, they are now making the sequel to Amnesia. Seriously, Mike, after this, at least go watch a couple of videos of Amnesia. It's so flippin' freaky. And it seems like a good fit, because, Kyle, you know what Amnesia is. After playing through D-Rester, like, doesn't it seem like a no-brainer?
You know what actually struck me as surprising? When I looked it up, it was a Half-Life 2 mod originally. And the whole time I'm playing this game, I'm like, this game kind of looks like a pimped-out Half-Life 2.
Very brown, yeah.
Just the way the textures, the shimmer on things, it reminded me of that Valve look.
Well, then,
Yeah, like when you're in the car and going along the beach.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
Half-Life, not in Dear
yeah,
Esther.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no cars, no enemies, no jump button.
No functional buttons except for walk.
Yep. And then there's times where you're like, wait, am I walking faster? No, I think I'm just moving through a small space.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, after playing this, I was just like, I completely understand why these guys are making the next Amnesia, because their sense of ambiance is amazing.
Yeah. Well, the cave was just like, holy crap. And that was one dude made all that. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. Some of the trivia from this, obviously, the game was originally created as a free mod for this was using the Source engine back in June of 2008. Correct me if I'm wrong though. This version, the retail version, is still built out of the Source engine.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's just significantly more, buffed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the developer, the Chinese Room, was originally a research project at the University of Portsmouth in Hampshire, England. I almost said New England because I'm just so used to saying New England, but yeah.
Yeah, this is a very, 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 very British game.
What were they researching?
I don't know.
Melodrama?
I looked up a little bit of, Portsmouth, and they don't even have like a gaming division. I think it was more of like less of a gaming bent as just storytelling, like experimenting with different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, this is total like this is indie game to a T. Like if I, because like yeah, we think of, probably when you think about indie games right now, you think of like old school side scrollers because that's really popular, or like Fez and stuff like that. But like this is the kind of stuff I'm surprised we don't see more of. Just crazy, really fighting against the conventional idea of a video game.
No, it's like an indie movie, like in all the good ways that you could say that something is like an indie movie.
As opposed to
all two
bad
of the
ways.
good ways that you could say something is like an indie movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Kyle, you and I both, we have a mutual friend who enjoys noise music.
Yeah, this was very artsy.
This was to me the noise music of video games.
I agree.
But in a in a weird way. Like I conceptually, I find noise and ambient music very interesting. I love the concept of it, but you're never going to find me on a Sunday afternoon sitting and listening to it. This, I really enjoyed taking this in. This was worth every penny, and for being so short. Like I'm all in. Like I will recommend this to people. I've really enjoyed this experience.
Well, and at first you feel like you're just playing someone's steroid like art project that they did for school. But once the voiceover kicks in, then you're kind of like, oh, this has something to it. And the voiceovers are completely randomized throughout the whole game. So it goes that extra layer of artsiness to say that everyone's experience is different.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, there's a bunch of VO in the game. The whole thing, obviously, the title, Dear Esther, comes from this fact that all of the voiceovers are just excerpts from letters written to this character named Esther from this unnamed character that... you can draw lots of conclusions. Am I the person that's doing the narrating, etc., etc.? But yeah, so they had all this VO of some dude reading from letters and chopped it all up, and it just plays during random points during the game. And there's more voiceover than there is points that the game starts talking to you, so it's randomly assembled.
Yeah.
Oh, the voiceover is done by Nigel Carrington. If that's not a British name, I don't know what is.
This game is so British it hurts.
No, Nigel.
You probably don't know him, but hey, he played the Warden in The Dark Knight. But other than that, you got some game credits. Dungeon Keeper 2 in 1999.
Wait, was he the announcer in Dungeon Keeper?
Dungeon Keeper, Enemy Keeper.
Enemy Keeper. Okay, because if he was like the announcer, that'd be awesome. Because I love the announcer in Dungeon Keeper.
Yeah, I could not weigh in on that. I apologize, Mike. Never played Dungeon Keeper.
You missed out, sir.
Nah, alas, it happens. There's a bit of a gap between you and I on our game generation. So, anyways, yeah. So in 2009, Robert Briscoe decided to remake this title as a full release, and this is what we played through, which was released back on February 14th of 2012 via Steam, where you can still get it. I actually picked this up through the Humble Bundle. How did you guys get it?
I just got it straight through Steam.
Gotcha.
I was Steam as well.
Which reminds me, I think I also got Hotline Miami, which I've been dying to play, and I keep forgetting I got it through the Humble Bundle.
That Humble Bundle was happening exactly when we were starting this up. But I actively avoided it because what I didn't want is 7 more games clogging up my Steam. I'm willing to pay $4 extra to avoid that.
Well, you don't have to have the Steam. They're actually all DRM-free versions of the game, so there's multiple ways you can download it. But yeah.
That's true. Steam keys seem to be the easiest.
Yeah, that's how I prefer to have my game library. So there's that. You were talking about the design, Mike, being done by one dude. Most of the level design, including the cave sequence, was created by Briscoe himself, and it was based off of concept work done by Ben Andrews. I can't say I'm familiar with Ben Andrews, but if he designed those caves, damn.
Honestly, you could tell me that they went into a cave and just laser mapped the entire thing and put it in there, and I would totally believe that. Those were the most awesome, convincing caves I have ever seen. I would pay this guy $1 million to go put these caves in an Elder Scrolls game so that all the caves don't look the same. And they're actually interesting to go through.
That's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because from a gameplay aspect, I mean, this was. Were you guys surprised by how compelled you were to keep playing this? I mean, you're literally doing nothing but walking. But I was just like, man, I just want to see more of this. And at the same time, I need a hug.
Actually, I played through using 3D glasses, which was very cool during a lot of it. Unfortunately, 3D glasses still seem to have issues rendering water completely. So most of my playthrough was me like looking up at the sky or trying to think anything that didn't have the water in my view so that things didn't look screwed up, which was kind of tough to do in a lot of part of the game. So it was like, that's cool, that's cool. Don't look at the water, don't look at the water. That's cool, that's really cool. No, water, now.
Well, that's what you get for using 3D.
Yeah. Ups and downs.
Yeah, if you guys are not aware, I hate 3D. I hate it good. I wish death upon it. So, well, that's cool. I bet some of that was interesting in 3D.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what do you guys think about on the whole? Like, obviously, when this first came out and got popular with the re-release, there was a lot of arguments going on the web whether this was actually a game or not. So, what say you?
This came out right around the time of games like Amnesia and Scratches as well. And so we had a lot of these kind of like, oh, maybe it's a sort of miss game. And I originally thought that I was going to wander around the island kind of like solving some puzzles, maybe like grabbing some diagrams and having to like go turn some knobs and stuff.
Yeah. So
I'm glad it's not. If it would have been a missed game, I would have shot myself and begged us to do anything else.
Yeah, it's a good point. I prefer this to a missed type adventure as well. So I don't know. I mean, would you classify this as a game?
No, but I don't consider that an insult, like in the least. I think that's probably the biggest part of the argument is that people are like, it's not a game, and they consider that to be like an insult. So everybody else has to like rush to its defense and be like, but it is a game, and it's a big nerd argument. It's not even necessary.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, do you think we should just redefine? Do you think video game is just an outdated term in general?
No, this is an interactive art project.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's only really confusing because you use a couple things that video games use to get around. You know, a mouse and a keyboard, and it happens to be running in a game engine. But other than that, there's not really any super huge similarities.
Yeah, there's no mechanics, as it were.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not shooting, you're not platforming, you're not puzzle solving.
Yep. The only thing, like the closest thing I got to any kind of gameplay in the game was there's that hole on the beach when you first show up, and you can jump down it and, die and then respawn up at the top. That's about it. It's just you have died.
I'm sure I'm in the majority as well. I started up this game. There's water immediately behind me. I'm going to go, well, I'm going to walk into the water and drown.
I accidentally walked off the dock and drowned. That was the first thing I did. I was just like, oh, this is cool. And I was like trying to figure out my jump button, and there wasn't one. So instead, I just walked off the edge and died. So, welcome to Dear Esther. You can't swim.
Yeah.
But there is one more mechanic sort of game thing that you can make out of it, and that is ghost hunting.
Okay, so you saw some of the spooks, as it were.
Yes, and boy, they got me right in the spine. Something about like seeing it multiple times, like knowing it's coming or having an eye out for that when you know it can't actually affect you and it's not attacking you. I don't know, just something just so vulnerable about that. And it really creeped me the hell out. I mean, first one, I'm sure a lot of people, their first ghost they saw was the rather obvious one down on the beach with the wrecked ships.
Yes.
And there's the one that kind of, this shadow kind of walks over to the edge and disappears.
Yep.
Had I actually seen the very first ghost that happens in the game, I probably would have quit pretty darn quick before I realized there wasn't any game to be had. Which is when you first, in my second playthrough, I walked into the lighthouse there at the very beginning of the game. You look up, there's a little ghostly face looking down at you. And it kind of darts out of the way.
That's weird.
Yeah, doesn't that give
never
you,
saw a single ghost. Maybe I just took things too slow. Like
Oh,
they had
that's
all
funny.
done their ghosty business and gone by the time I
Yeah,
looked up.
I only ever noticed the one on that cliff by the wrecked ship. Since then, I went to Wikipedia and looked this up, and they show up in multiple places. The creepiest by far is at the end of the game when there's all the candles. It shows up in the reflection below the candle.
That's awesome.
That's
is what that is.
horrifying.
The horrifying one to
So
me
horrifying.
is the robed dead figure that's sitting behind the fence up at the top of the tower.
Robed, dead figure behind the fence.
Yeah, when you're
kind-
climbing up the mountain to do your final leap to your death.
Leap to your
Did not
bird
see
death.
that
Yeah,
either.
leap to your bird.
Ghost-free experience for some reason. Maybe
Yeah.
they don't show up in 3D.
Oh, I didn't see that, but yeah, they're creepy as hell, and there's a couple different models, and if you go look online, people have obviously cheated and gone up and see when they look up like up close, and they're still creepy as hell, even up close. But yeah, at a distance, just scares the bejesus out of me. I hate that kind of crap.
Well, now I'm going to have to go back and play it again.
Yeah, well, another one, when you're heading up that, there's like a winding path going up to a hut, and there's all the trees that have been knocked down. Mm-hmm. And at the very bottom of that hill, there's one that looks at you and goes right into that damn house. I would have never walked into that damn house to find nothing.
Yeah, this is a deeply unsettling game.
Surprisingly, though, not a single ghost has been found in the cave level.
I
It's just
know.
too dark.
Yeah, there's ghosts everywhere. It's just too dark to see them.
Well, because I got a lot of the voiceovers I got, a lot of them were talking about some dude falling down that hole.
Yeah.
So I was just like, oh god, I'm gonna go down in there and there's gonna be bodies or something, or which
Nope,
in
just-
like any other game, like we're gonna talk about Tomb Raider next week, and there's
so many bodies. Where did they come from?
so much carcass going on up in that game. There's carcass all up in that bitch, and it
Like
does
every time you bury anyone in the world, it just poops out there.
pretty much, and that game doesn't bother me. But something about this game, like if there had been one body, I wouldn't have wanted to be in that room. Just it's all about setting and flavor and how they just dealt with it. And this game is so freaking pretty for what it is. And serious hats off to these guys for the sound design. Like I've never been so chilled to the core just from the sound of wind in a video game before. And this just like anytime you walked into any interior structure, I immediately wanted to leave because they just got that howling wind going through it.
I wonder if that's just a British thing. I feel like I've had more atmospheric experiences in like British media, movies, stuff like
Well,
that.
that's because they get more holiday than us. Whereas here in America, it's all about scheduling and go, Disney World, next trip. But there they get to go out to the fjords and like listen to the wind 4 days a month.
I like that notion that in England, oh, it's Thursday, time to go down to the fjord. Not sure that's quite an accurate description, Kyle. But yeah. So, this is difficult to talk about from a story aspect because
Yeah.
it is complete and total conjecture and what you kind of took away. And no one who worked on this game came out and said this is what we meant, which is kind of awesome.
Yeah, that would be a huge disservice to the actual game if they did.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, but there's certainly some talking points we can touch on.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just it's like I said, I'm not sure where to start.
Well, how about this? Who are we?
We could have an argument about just that.
Well, let's try here.
Okay.
So we assume we're the dude who's doing the voiceover.
That's what I'm taking away. I think this is some kind of after death experience or limbo thing.
Yeah, or like a fever dream. But I mean, you don't even get that settled until way further in. Like you can't be sure if you're the guy reading the notes or not. Or if you're the guy writing the notes, I should say. Obviously, you're reading them.
Well,
Or there's being spoken to you through your e-reader.
Well, what was the point that made you question that, Mike?
Just because, you're on an island and why the hell am I reading notes instead of just talking to myself like a regular person?
Yeah. All your voiceovers are addressed to someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're excerpts from letters, which that much seems to be confirmed by everything I could read about this game.
True. I'm just saying you don't know if you're the one who wrote them at first. It's not until later on then you kind of get the idea that, okay, that's me. I mean, you can get the idea, but you can't really confirm. So people could think one way or the other. That's pretty much the way this entire game goes, though. It's also amorphous. Things blur into one another.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the character of Esther, who these letters are addressed to, which seems to be, the further you go through the game, at least in my playthrough, to be someone who is... You're apparently writing letters to a dead person.
Well, yes, quite dead. Died in a car accident.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's another question raised by this game. What the hell year is this game taking place in? I'm so confused by it.
The land doesn't seem to be real, mainly because he has performed superhuman feats while on this island. He's carved giant gashes into the mountains, even made it into, supposedly single-handedly, made huge quarries in the side of some of the hills, defaced all the trees, taken them out, written absurdities all over the walls.
True. And even once again, though, you're not exactly sure he's the one who did it. Like in one of the voiceovers, you even hear him say was Donnelly the guy who painted all this stuff, even though the paint cans are sitting right there. You're the one who obviously did it, but maybe you don't remember it because you're crazy.
Well, and I think I am Donnelly. He never says his own name, but the way he refers to Donnelly, and I'm pretty sure in one of the voiceovers, he gets really pissed off about having kidney stones, and then Donnelly had kidney stones. So since we got two guys with kidney stones here...
This has never happened before.
Could happen. I mean, this may be like salt land.
Yeah. Yeah. Did they reference Donnelly's last name?
I don't remember if they do. But there's Donnelly Jacobson, who was the sheep herder that was on the island that died of syphilis. And then Paul, the guy who is referenced a couple times as the other driver in the accident with Esther. And a lot of it blends together between Paul and Donnelly. So that you don't know if they're supposed to be the same person or they're just kind of forming into this weird same person in your own mind.
Yeah, the wiki I was reading mentioned Donnelly being from the 18th century, but I can't remember, at least in my playthrough, hearing anything that specified that.
Well, you just assume that it's older because he's the first and only guy to
chart the island.
Charted the island.
Yeah.
And you know how them British people love to chart those islands. So you assume that it was done a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then there's all kinds of biblical references, too. Towards the end of the game, when there's stuff scrawled on the wall that you can actually start to read, they're passages straight from the Bible.
Yeah, all about Damascus, and laid on a bit heavy. They really only opened one page of the Bible.
Yeah, pretty much. But people have gone and then drawn a lot of conclusions from that because that section has to do with Paul, the guy who meets Jesus after his resurrection, the final apostle or whatever it is. I'm not I'm not a well versed on the Bible, at least not anymore. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to read on this game. It was almost you could easily spend more time reading about the conjecture about this game than playing the game itself.
Yeah. Sure, and it's a little sad that we have the internet to do this. I feel like this game would have worked better in an age without that. I mean, it really is something that you should have your own personal experience with.
I disagree to a point. I'd say that the fact that I went and I read as much as I could about this game after playing it, and still no one is sure about a damn thing, and I think it speaks volumes about the quality of this experience.
Yeah, and I think this is interesting that we played this after playing BioShock, which has a kind of similarity in how they're trying to make personalities and people kind of blend together in this fever dream kind of way. And in Bioshock's way was not quite as successful in my mind. It was just kind of confusing and convoluted. In this way, it's much more ethereal and it feels more genuine as an actual my brain does not know what's going on type thing.
That's a very good point. What an odd comparison, though, when you look at it at face value, to compare Bioshock to this game.
But clearly we weren't supposed to have anything concrete taken out of this game. It's supposed to be your own interpretation.
Right.
I mean, just the character Esther. We don't know who she is. If it's a lover, if it's a friend, if it's a parent. There's really nothing other than the fact that our character, our reader, is clearly traumatized by this experience.
By the death of Esther. I mean, I would around the table. What do you guys think? I read Esther as a dead wife or girlfriend of some sort.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sure, and that's what we bring to it. I mean, that's what would affect us in such a heavy way. But even the choice to make it a drunk driver, because there's so many ways to die in this world.
Right.
But of all of them, that really lends itself to this melancholy feeling, because it's a tragedy. It's all these things, but you can't hate the other person. You can't hate the situation, and no one really did anything other than him choosing to drive drunk. And even then, like, other than that choice, which he was made while under inebriation, is not his choice because he was another person because he was drunk. It's the perfect catalyst for this situation.
That's a good point. I would argue that you absolutely would probably hate the drunk driver who killed your wife. But
I mean,
that's the plot of a lot of revenge movies.
Absolutely, but like, can you hate them, or do you hate the person they were that night? Like, it's not completely clear. If someone just ran out of the street and, oh, Esther, you were stabbed that night tragically by a mass murderer, and she was super awesome and wore feather boas, and it would just be, it's a very different tone.
Right.
Whereas
right.
this is
it's more black and white as opposed
Yeah.
to which I do agree with. That was just
I feel like I've seen more than a few artsy music videos that had a very similar plot line of, oh, there's a car accident, and a lot of times they seem to be in reverse. I'm thinking of like what The Scientist Coldplay did, and then there's another one that I've seen. I think that there's at least 3 or 4.
Oh, that's a great music video, by the way.
the one where he's rolling in the car the whole time.
No, the Coldplay one is the whole thing's basically backwards, which is crazy. That means he probably sung it backwards when it was recorded, and then they reversed it. Insane.
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly how it happened.
I don't remember the music video I'm thinking of, but the guy basically pulls out of the driveway, gets hit, and the entire music video is him spinning in the car as it rolls across.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about. I cannot remember. It was some bad butt rock band.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't remember who. They all blend together. It was like POD or Papa Roach or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some terrible rock band that should not have had the success they had.
Wait, was that who's the one who did the music video with Christopher Walken?
That would have been... That was Fatboy Slim.
Yes. Was that then?
No, because they're not a rock band.
Okay.
Okay, it doesn't matter. We're getting off track. But it's funny the things that it makes me think of, because you just mentioning that now made me think of another unsuccessful story being told, Signs, which had that.
It's a popular thing in any kind of storytelling medium.
Yeah,
this idea of car accidents being like something that strikes from God.
Exactly. M. Night Shyamalan sucks at making movies. Ran into Mel Gibson's wife and cut her in half, but she miraculously would only die if they moved the car. Which doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, she was being held together. I get it for the sake of fiction.
Yeah, why not?
It's just another another point in my spreadsheet of why M. Night Shyamalan should not be allowed to make films anymore.
I think people are more mad at the movie because the monsters were lame and they were actually scared up to that point.
They couldn't open doors.
That's a good point. I will. In his defense, the first half of that movie did legitimately freak me out.
Yeah, the whole cornfield stuff, that's freaky.
Yes, that actually plays to the specters in this game. The scene in Signs where he looks out his back window and you see the shadowy figure standing on top of the barn.
Yeah.
Still chills me. Because I lived out in the middle of nowhere. I know what it's like to be out at like midnight in the middle of 10 acres with a creepy barn in the distance, hearing nothing but owls and just being like, oh God, please don't let there be a ghost or something.
And as much as you want to be like...
in a while? Monsters.
Yeah,
Scumbag brain.
Hey, you getting the mail at night? How about we start running? How's that sound like? That sound like a good plan? Yeah, I've done all that stuff as a kid. But yeah, even that scene where like they walk across camera, like that is stupid dumb. But when you first saw it, scared the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, some found footage. Freaking Blair Witch Project, man, changed. Say what you want about that movie, but it changed horror films forever.
Yeah.
Like, still want that 2 hours back though. The whole movie, the movie as a whole, just not worth it.
Well, and even to add to this, we have Jacobson from the 18th century.
Jakobsen, sir. Jakobsen.
Jacobsen.
Dying of syphilis, which is again another sort of like melancholy death because it's so curable now.
Plus, he died alone of syphilis, which is a sexually transmitted disease.
Well, man, there's a lot of sheep hanging out. You get lonely.
Yeah, I guess.
I told him. I told Kenny a woman's mouth is the dirtiest place. That was on the other night. I couldn't help but think about it.
Yeah.
Nothing in this game is whatever. People are gonna get on me for using the term game. I don't know what it's the best term to use. Nothing about this experience is joy-inducing.
True.
This is a cold, desolate experience, and it's wonderful.
I think it's really good that it's short. Like 10 hours of this would probably put a bullet in your head.
No, exactly. Like I think this game was the perfect length. You can complete it in a sitting easily.
Yeah. It's like watching The Wall. Anytime I'm feeling depressed and I just want to put that extra little edge of depression on that, I watch The Wall.
You're a dark person. I stay away from stuff like that when I'm depressed.
Oh, there you go.
You should not. We were talking about off air before the show. We were talking about we're marathoning Scrubs. That's not a show you should watch if you're not in a good mood because there's those random depressing episodes.
Yeah, you got about a 50-50 shot of walking away happy or sad.
Luckily, they're short, so you can just queue up another one. But this freaking game. Continuing on with characters and what we took away. He mentions the hermit. Talks about a hermit living in a cave. Right about the time there were a lot of optional areas you could enter that were dead ends. And for me, the first talk about the hermit showed up with the first cave that I could go into, and it was just like a little dead end cave with some of the scrawlings on the wall.
Yeah. Honestly, like at first, because I was taking this very slow and trying to figure it out, I thought that the hermit was supposed to be the dude who was, the one who wrote all this crap on the walls all over the island and everything. And I was thinking that for a little bit and, looking at it like, what did he put there? It's like a chemical symbol or something. What is all this crap? And then I look down and there's a paint bucket. And I'm like, aha, I figured something out. It's a lie. The hermit didn't do it. And then you start to realize that you really didn't figure anything out at all.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, every time you're just like, I've got a handle on this. The game's like, and here's a letter telling you something completely different.
Yeah.
You do not have a handle on this.
Which, if this was a more narrative-driven game like BioShock, would have pissed me off to no end. But here, where it's just kind of like story, cerebral stuff, I was digging it big time.
Yeah. Now, here's a question. Sorry, continue, Kyle.
Well, those writings on if you don't want to get into those yet, go ahead.
No, go nuts.
Okay, so the writing's on the wall. So clearly we have like chemical, electronic, and uh, biological symbols. As far as I could figure out, this was him like trying to figure out the math behind how a drunk driver killed Esther. Because like the chemical and then the machine and the two of those together are what ended her life. Not that person, because again, it was that drunk driver situation.
You know, I never actually thought about it that hard. To me, I was just like, you know, I'm going to go back here again, and I'm going to figure out what the hell that chemical symbol is, and maybe figure out what the heck that, you know, electronic diagram's supposed to be, and figure this stuff out, but then I just didn't.
Yeah, there's wikis for that. I saw a lot of that stuff on there, and I think a lot of it is actually just gibberish, but a lot of the symbols are known symbols used in like engineering and whatnot, but it's interesting, Kyle. That's insane. I don't know how you came to that conclusion. I want to live in your brain for a week. Yeah, I didn't really have a thought on that. The whole time I was just thinking, what the hell does this have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Because other than that, the whole game has this air of an older time, with the exception of the fact that, again, the game, I feel like the game's just screwing with you at points. Like you're talking about,
absolutely.
Mike. Like every time you think you've got a handle on the situation, right off the bat, you spawn into this game and there's a radio tower off in the distance.
Right, and
as you start
adds to the confusion.
Yeah, but as you start going through, and everything else about it makes me think this is like late 1900s or something. Like,
That's once again, I feel like it would make more sense to British people as far as the age discrepancies, because you know, Europe being colonized for so much longer, there was a hell of a lot more old stuff. I think like this would confuse the living crap out of a lot of people in California, where everything's kind of new. Like you go up to New England and there's a lot of old stuff. When you go to actual old England, and there's a lot of really old stuff, and it's just been there for like centuries. And then another thing is put in there that's there for another couple centuries, and you just get this mass of time capsules all over the damn place.
But when your brain tries to make order out of chaos, you're looking at an island that you're currently on. Why are you currently on this island that has no modern tech whatsoever except for a radio tower? Why would there be a radio tower and not be any other modern anything? Like one building that looks like it was built this century. Anything like that. Instead, you have... And then, like, at the end of the game, there's a section of beach that looks like there used to be docks there. But why is there a radio tower that looks like it's relatively new and docks that looks like they rotted away 200 years ago?
Now it's starting to feel more like Tomb Raider.
Oh, I have questions about that as well.
See, this game's so amorphous, it actually blends into other games that we talk about.
That's a good point. But yeah, are you following my logic here of why the game is screwing with my brain so much? Because if I'm not looking at this as this is some type of purgatory situation, this island makes zero sense.
No, and I wouldn't be surprised if, like, one day on the creator's deathbed, he's like, the island was actually kidney stones, and the guy's, like, in a dark room whittling on his own stones.
What?
Yeah.
No, seriously, like, this could just be his purgatory. This is the world he made for himself. And he talks about his kidney stones, like, erupting out of the ground and creating this island.
Yeah. I feel like any actual hard explanation to any single point in this game would completely ruin it. Like, if you gave your brain one hard, fast fact to try and, like, cement, it would immediately try to branch out and connect everything else to it and make it all nice and tidy. But since this game doesn't give you one little thing to pin down, you just kind of leave it there as a soup, which is perfect.
Well, there's one thing in this game that you can pin down, and that is this sort of dreamlike underwater state that we enter into the motorway and have the two cars post-collision with the lights blinking. And I'm sure, like everyone else, you walked very timidly, like, is there a dead body in the car? Are there dead bodies in the car? Please don't let there be dead bodies.
I did not want to see another human figure in this game. It was like my own personal mental hell going through this. Like, if I see a bipedal form, I'm going to shit myself.
Wow. You guys played this so much differently than me. Like me, I was just like, hey, there's a road. Oh, there's some cars. Okay. Hey, what's that sign over there? And I was paddling for 5 minutes to go look at the street sign and be like, I don't know where that is. Let's go down the road. And that was the end of that. Completely.
So you just ruined the game for you. You played the experience. You trolled yourself.
I guess I did.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, that again. Yeah, that seems to be that seems to be something that is concrete, and you can look at that and be like, that is the car crash killed Esther, which again kind of just lends itself to the theme of this game, constantly screwing with the player. If you're attempting to make sense of it. If you're Mike and you're just trying to see what the road sign says, then I guess that is that.
I thought maybe they'd be, subtle and put something, in there. Like, in small print. Like, this is a fever dream, blah, blah, blah. Everything's kidney stones. Ha, ha, ha.
Well, and there are points when he seems to be going completely mad. I mean, both times I played through it happened to me towards the end, so... You're scaling the mountain, and he just goes nuts. No, it's not the kidney stones, and he just like starts getting really pissed off about these things.
Really polite pissed off, though. He's a wonderful accent.
Yeah.
Incredibly polite. So, this is kind of my final question to pose. Are we, as the player, crazy? Or is the narrator crazy?
Well, he talks a couple times about being on pain meds and that he's having kidney stones. Probably pretty damn bad kidney stones if he's having to have, morphine and all that other good stuff. At which point, if you're already in a depressed state, in massive amounts of pain, with morphine coursing through your system, you are probably going to see some shit. And, yeah, I get the feeling like that's kind of what he's seeing in his brain, probably while he's asleep in his closet, eating his shoes.
All right, fair enough. By the way, you don't want kidney stones, don't eat your shoes. Public service announcement from the campaign roundtable.
Full of kidney stones.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's somewhat crazy delirium. I walked away from this being like, I think I'm dead, and this is my own personal hell. Like, that's what I took away from the game.
Well, so much of this can be interpreted, but if you have the quote I put together for the chilling quote, this is what really got me because it was based in reality.
I do, and I can play that right now.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times. But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
This one got me the most because it is reality. This is something that would affect you in this tragic moment. You would never see the street the same again.
True. Like, even after the accident that Garrett and I got in, a little fender bender, I couldn't go over that one little rise in the road without getting a little tense. So I imagine if you lose someone, like really badly, then yeah, that would be a very traumatic thing.
Well, and he says 21 times, so it gives us this idea that at least some time has passed. I mean, it could just be 21 days of going to work.
Yeah, well, 21 seemed to be kind of a magic number towards the end there. Like, things were 21 times. And I actually don't know for sure if it actually is only 21 passages are read to you over the course of the game, because there are 21 notes in the water in the end. And he keeps saying, 21 this, 21 that. It's just kind of like that whole fever delirium of like a number kind of squeaks into your brain, and all of a sudden things all have to do with that number.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like I said, I knew going into this episode this was going to be a challenging discussion, just because it's like, it could mean anything. End of episode. Cut, print it. Let's talk about Last of Us. Yeah, no, it's such a cool freaking experience. Yeah, I've completely forgot about the car accident, Mike. Thanks. I drive that route literally every day, so I'm gonna be going over those train tracks again, just being like, oh shit.
Yeah, well, that was me for a couple of weeks after that. It's just like, what's over there? Oh, okay, no, okay, good.
Mike had a stack of art books in his lap too. He's lucky it didn't like break his nose when the airbag deployed.
Oh God, like 10 pounds of art reference up my face.
Yep. Good times. Good times. Oh, fun stuff. But that's kind of my closing thought, is the insane discussion. So, do either of you have any bullet points or talking points you wanted to bring up?
Well, then, with that being the case, I'm going to bring up the end. Because this is probably our biggest representation of things are not as they seem.
Yeah, exactly. And let's roll that, actually. I have that right here.
Dear Esther, I have burnt my belongings, my books, this death certificate. Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We've always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
The clip there cuts off before you hit, so if you haven't played, you fly. You don't hit the ground. You don't see yourself hit the ground. You start to glide and then fly along the outskirts of the island.
Yeah, you do see your shadow in front of you while you fly to the moon. That kind of bothered me.
Yeah, I didn't notice this, but reading up on it afterwards, apparently the shadow morphs into that of a bird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I totally didn't notice that the first time.
Well, he kind of starts going on about seagulls towards the end there too. So then you see that a shadow morphs into a seagull.
Okay.
Once again, going on about what's very British about this, the nautical stuff and being kind of that's where madness takes place. It seems to be kind of a very prominent theme. And like European, especially British type stuff, like I don't know how many things I've seen where it's just like stuff is crazy and has something to do with the ocean. Like, I don't know, can you guys think of anything like that?
First thing that came to mind was Old Man in the Sea, which isn't British, is it? No.
I think so.
Is it?
Well, look at Cthulhu. Like, the sea has always been a source of madness.
Yeah.
And disease.
And fish. But, like it all felt kind of very old-timey Lovecraftian in a lot of ways. Even the changing into a seagull, flying into the moon, stuff like that. I feel like this is something that could have, just kind of gotten into his brain. Like, to me, once again, I don't feel like he was dead. I feel like he kind of wanted to die. And when he was talking about, when I die and I'm cremated, and then I'll put my ashes folded in the notes that are been folded into boats, and then as the boats sink into the water, our ashes will intermingle through the paper and stuff like that. This guy wants to be with Esther. He wants to die, but he just hasn't yet. And this is kind of like, to me, the falling off is just like, I could die, but maybe I'll just fly and kind of get over it to a little bit, heal. All sorts of different ways to take things.
Absolutely.
Man.
By the way, Old Man in the Sea is not British. It's Hemingway. He's freaking American.
Oh.
And you brought up ashes, and that was a twisted quote when he's talking about bringing them out of his pocket, and just bit by bit the ashes get smaller and smaller. There's some sad ass parts in this game.
It really freaking is.
And Kristen came in after I was playing this, and she's like, "Hey, what do you want for dinner?" Like that, and I'm like, I just can't.
Don't you get in the car tonight. Don't you dare. This pulls on so many strings that I think a lot of us have. It really screws with universal fears, I think.
Which is why it had to be so generic to be this thought experiment.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder, the majority of me disagrees with what I'm about to say, but I almost want to sit down with the creator and be like, what the hell inspired this? What tragedy befell you? But again, I think any peeling back of the layers of this game would ruin the experience.
I'd probably just say he saw some music video about a car crash.
I saw some music video from this terrible rock band about a car crash. Really? No, I'm screwing with you, dude. But if someone close to me died, what the hell do you think happened?
Well, and it could honestly be something like he was using the Half-Life 2 source engine and just kind of kept going. And he was like, well, wouldn't it be interesting if some quotes played while you walked around an island? They were kind of depressing. And it just built on itself. I mean, this is a redo of an original mod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's, what did you take away from the ending, Kyle?
I think, my personal story is exactly what I said earlier. He's nuts. He is whittling his own kidney stones in a dark room. He's past them, so hey, congratulations. But he's addicted to the painkillers too now. So he thinks he flew into a bird.
He flew into a bird or became a bird and flew away?
Both.
Well, he probably grabbed a bird that was on his windowsill, and after taking a bite out of it, now thinks he...
All right. Then, if to truly seal the humorous image you just put in my head, I am now imagining the end of this game, but with Freebird playing instead of the solemn piano music.
Nice.
Specifically, the upbeat solo. So there's that. I couldn't help but think after this. I was just like, man, speedrunners must hate this game.
Actually, I think Freebird would have added a quarter to the length of the game.
It would have. But yeah, so that is about all I have to say on this game. Great experience. If you haven't played Dear Esther, I wouldn't even say that us talking about it has spoiled it. Something about playing it, you have to play it. It really is an experience. You have to experience it. Don't go watch a Let's Play. Don't just listen to us talk about it. Go, throw these guys $10, or a lot of times it's on sale for pennies.
Yeah.
Just pick it up and set aside 60 minutes and just and experience this.
Yeah.
Because if you're geeky about games like we are, it's unlike anything I've ever quote unquote played.
This feels like the entire first bits of BioShock, where you're just kind of meandering around and not doing anything particularly, and just seeing all the awesome crap that they put in there. And this is just the entirety of this game, and that's what I really liked. Because honestly, I think that's when BioShock was its strongest, was just showing you stuff and not necessarily making you do anything.
Well, and hey, if we started up a checklist for this show, we should definitely have on there walk past a do not enter sign, because this was in this game as well.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. The games in general, it's all about going where you're not supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
Instilling a sense of danger somehow. So, we could do Devil May Cry, which may not have a do not enter sign, but you know that's a gateway to hell you're about to jump down into. Oh man, I haven't played the original Devil May Cry in so long.
How about climbing a tower? That's definitely in here.
Yep, and it's going to be the next game. As a matter of fact, I think that's where we're going to break Tomb Raider in half, is climbing the tower. So, if you're wondering and you had not played yet, that's probably where we will stop.
Yes.
Awesome. I am once again going to be playing this with the show, so I have not played this game at all.
Spoiler alert, she jumps off the tower, and before she hits the ground, she turns into 2 desert eagles and flies away.
The guns?
Yes.
Wonderful. No,
And that's the story of how she got her guns.
And then at the end of the game, you find out how she got her breast implants. That would have been the most awful way to end the Tomb Raider game. It's funny because the game. Remember when Tomb Raider came out, or right before it came out, everyone was getting on it because some of the people who were supposed to be promoting the game were saying stupid ass sexist shit.
I can't even keep track of all the stupid ass sexist shit that goes on in media anymore.
Okay, there was a bunch of really dumb stuff said in to promote Tomb Raider, and it had a lot of bad press, which is funny because having played it, I didn't get that vibe at all of sexism. But yeah, had it ended with, and this is how she became a hot smoking bombshell, like then I would have been like, okay, warranted.
Yeah.
So there's a little preview of next week's show. So yeah, next week we'll be doing the 2013 Tomb Raider, the modern reboot.
The best one.
Exactly. The chat room. Well, at least no more depressing stuff. There's plenty of depressing stuff in Tomb Raider. What are you talking about? The island is built of carcasses. Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's so good. We
really need to play a Mario game or something, because I'm starting to notice that we have a lot of depressing things that we've been going over.
Well, we're doing story-based games, and okay, right here. We can do a campaign roundtable about Mario right here. Bowser takes the princess. Mario rescued the princess.
Let's go. Thanks for playing my game. And that's it.
Or if you prefer, we could try and do something really hard, like Mario Soccer. we could do that as the next campaign roundtable. What do you think, guys? Super Strikers or whatever it's called?
No.
We could do the story for the Smash Brothers.
Oh man, I would almost like to do that as a joke.
Actually, I have a lot of opinions about that.
Do you?
It's like the Walmart brand Kingdom Hearts. That's pretty much the story for the last Smash Brothers.
Well, the first one is pretty much like the poorest man's Toy Story.
Yeah.
So, there is
And my hand is the final boss. I can't afford toys.
That is one lonely game.
Only one hand. I don't want to know what the other hand's doing.
Well, it is the master hand.
Yeah.
At least they didn't call it the stranger.
That's what old Lefty is.
Hey. I thought the stranger was the one wearing the glove.
All right, we're done. This is over. We've gone far enough. Go play Dear Esther. It was amazing. Gorgeous game. Anyways, if you want to help out the Campaign Roundtable, you want to help it out for free, leave us a review on the iTunes Store. It's the best way to ensure that our show gets new listeners. The Campaign Roundtable is a production of amove.tv. amove.tv/Campaign Roundtable is our site. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or catch the VODs on youtube.com/StarcastShow. Show. And we record live on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern, usually. We're a little late today. Over at amove.tv/live. You can email us at the show campaignroundtable@gmail.com. Send in any questions, comments, or MP3 attachments you'd like to have included on the show. We'd love to hear from you guys. If you have an opinion on the subject of Dear Esther, let us know. What do you think it all meant? What does it mean? What does it mean? Why is anything in this game? Let us know. Write us at campaignroundtable@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CRT Show. I am at Garrett Art. Kyle's at Kyle Ferguson. Mike is at MSD Artist. And you can check out my graphic design work at nomoonart.com. Please check out our sponsors, doghousesystems.com. The code is CRT for Campaign Roundtable. It'll get you double memory on your next Doghouse Systems gaming rig, and it will directly support the Campaign Roundtable in the process. So we thank them for their support, and we thank you all for listening. We will be back next week with part 1 of our Tomb Raider discussion. That is the 2013 Modern Tomb Raider. And we will see you then. I'm going to go get some hot pants and dual-wield pistols.
You can't add after that. Who could argue with that?
I bid you adieu.